Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. Here's another political reaction to this South African situation. And, listen, I remember the days of apartheid and things of that nature, but we're going to go through some of this in real time and talk about it. I'll just give you some of my views. Some of them I'm going to probably be mum on a lot of this stuff because you got to think and rethink about what you say about when it's this racial situation. But this guy up here is a leader in South Africa. You got to listen to what he says early on to fuels the fire. And there's a couple other things that we'll say as the panel discussion at CNN gets a little out of hand. And it's interesting to listen to. So let's go to it. I'm going to react to it. I'm going to say a couple of things here and there. And some people might get triggered, but like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I like these political reactions live, just in case anybody wants to, chime in or come up or do whatever they want to do. That's fine. Just hit the like button on the way in, share this video and all that kind of stuff. And, let's, just kind of have real talk. You don't have to be some kind of pundit, right, to have opinions, because all of this shit, as a citizen, a lot of this stuff, matters to us all. You know what I'm saying? So we all have something to say, and we shouldn't be afraid to say it. And, you don't have to be some celebrity, and you don't need to get permission from somebody to actually voice your opinion on what's happening on a large scale, smaller scale, or any scale. You could just be some guy next door, and you have the right to say what you have to say. And the people, if they don't want to hear you, they don't want to listen to you, that's fine too. Nobody's asking anybody to turn into the channels and say you have to watch. But if there's something that interests you and you have an opinion, put your opinions in the comment block. But like to share the video. And let's go. And like I said, always, I'm gonna type this out. Hit the like button on the way in. The like button on the way in. That's why. Hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button. So without further ado, let's get started. This is like a 19-minute clip. I don't know if I'm going to show it all, but we're going to see enough of it. So it'll be interesting. Now listen to this guy closely, what he says.
Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act.
I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm saying to you, we've not called for the killing of white people, at least for now. I can't guarantee the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter, they freak out. It sounds like a genocidal
cry babies.
Because they're being killed. And
yeah, okay, so you hear what he says, right? So listen, whether he was white or black, if you're the opposite side of this guy and you hear what he says, I know if we're here in America and we saw a white supremacist stand up and say, listen, sometimes we're just going to have to kill these N-words, right? We're going to feel some kind of way. Now, that's just fact. So here's the thing in reverse. Now, we're going to get into the discussions of how bad these ancestors of these people, they're not even ancestors. Shit, remember, apartheid was only killed like 35 years ago. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, maybe even less, right? Nelson Mandela is inside of our lifetime. So apartheid has been the worst horrible racist regime. And it's still fresh in a lot of people's, memory. So here's the president talking about what he sees going on.
yeah, we don't want to see people be killed. Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, we're supposed to have I guess a G20 meeting there or something, but we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of, but it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about.
Listen, folks, there's not a genocide going on in South Africa. There's not. There's violence and there's some people being killed, but nobody's eradicating all the Dutch whites in South Africa. So that's a lie. That's a lie. And it's really lie, and it's really bad for him to say that in the backdrop of what's going on in Palestine. That's a genocide. This is not a genocide. However, it's still violence. And I don't think, see, this is my thing. I don't even think he has to go to these lengths to justify what he's doing. And that's the point. I don't even think he has to go through these lengths to justify what he's doing. Right? It's really, I mean, I don't know why these guys think they got to be crazy. You're a white man. You want to take up for some white folks. And as a black person, I can dig it. You know, I mean, I can dig it.
But it's a terrible thing that's taking place. And farmers are being killed. They happen to be white. But whether they're white or black makes no difference to me. But white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa. And the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they talk about it. That would be the only story they talk about. And I don't care who they are. I don't care about their race, their color. I don't care about their height, their weight. I don't care about anything. I just know that what's happening is terrible. I have people that live in South Africa. They say it's a terrible situation taking place. So we've essentially extended citizenship to those people to escape from that violence and come here.
Well, in my
All right. So before she goes, listen. Now, I mean, I don't know whether this would have been better if he just came out. His boy is Elon Musk. Elon Musk, I believe, is a racist, and from the standpoint that he doesn't like black people because he thinks that black people don't have any kind of merit, no matter even if they do. I don't see anybody black in his orbit for as employees or anything else. So if he sees a black person in any position of leadership, he always thinks that that's DEI. He is an Afrikaner. Maybe he was born here. His father definitely was a strict racist, I believe. So Elon Musk has those traits. Now, so I can look at the guy and say, you know, you don't have to like black people, right? If he has anything good to do about America, we don't have to be friends, right? I think Trump is a little different. Trump is pretty much like people call him. He's all pro-white, and and he's a white man, so he's going to be pro-white. I don't understand why that's so difficult for people. You know, the one thing that Trump never did to white people is what Kamala Harris told us, right?
let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
Right. So at least, I mean, you know, at least, you know, with a white face, he never told white people he wasn't going to do anything for them. We got black people in so-called blackface saying they won't do anything. They're not going to do anything just for us. Right. So, I mean, how does that make you feel? Matter of fact, 92% of the women wanted to still vote for her, even knowing that she didn't want to do anything for black people. 78% of black men still voted for her. Right. So who's more psychotic? The person who is taking up for his race, or the people who ain't? You know what I'm saying? So listen, and we're talking about 57 people. So let's just go. Let's just keep going. I mean, I think it's much ado about nothing, but I think the president went too far trying to justify it by calling this shit a genocide and stuff like that. He's absolutely, it's a lie.
My view, what makes it different is that they are white South Africans. The president, in my view, has not hidden his racism behind a bushel. In fact, you know, in his policies, whether it's removing government workers or in this case, admitting white South Africans while denying.
See, now here's where she's wrong. The overwhelming majority of government workers that were fired are white. They're not, you know, he didn't just cherry pick out the black ones and shit like that. The overwhelming majority of the people getting fired out of the federal government across the board, they're white. So, you know, they're conflating issues and all this kind of stuff. You know, so it's just like no honesty on any side when to try to move a point.
Refugee status, asylum seekers, from other countries, principally Central and South American and Black nations, to come into this country. And so I think that, this policy, while it's not surprising in this action, really speaks of the underlying message in this that disrespects and shows disdain for people of color, while embracing these Afrikaners now, and also expediting the process by which they can come into the country, while denying that same process to other refugees.
See, now, listen, she's saying all that because it's Trump, right? But we just lived through 4 years of whatever the number is. Some people say as much as 20 million people. I really see that's crazy. 15 to 20 million people come in all kinds of ways, unfettered into our country. The vast majority of them, I mean, the absolute vast majority, like 90% of them are not white, right? It's not like, let me tell you, and in the 4 years that Trump's here, no matter what they do, they're not going to get rid of, they might get maybe 20% of those people out of the country during his regime. Maybe. So this whole notion that since Trump favored 59 white people, I don't know how much on a limb we need to go about that, right? They are under duress. He's going to take care of his boy Elon Musk. And the only reason why he's probably looking at South Africa is because it's in a relationship with Elon Musk, who is a South African, right? He's probably got American citizenship, but he's a South African by heart, right? So he's taking care of his boy. And he's taking 59 people and he's bringing them here. Now, if we're talking about, if this is just the beginning and we start talking about 20,000, 100,000, 500,000 of these Afrikaners here, then as a black man, we should have some issues, because those people are devout racists, right? They're the ones who are the children of apartheid, and that shit passes down through generations, right? Racism is learned. So I know their grandfathers and grandmothers taught them about how much they hate blacks, right? So these are not going to be friendly whites that's here, right? We know that. Okay, so anyway, but I don't really have that much of an issue with Trump doing what he's doing, because whether he's excluding other people or not, we got 20 million people, man. It's like 20 million to 59. So I don't know as much to trip about.
Okay. So if you think about the history of South Africa, it being under an apartheid system, where I think it is 80% of the population that are Black Africans only own 4% of the land. That is because they were put in shanty towns and moved into...
Because Black people got their ass kicked. They should have been burning those boats when they came to shore. They gave them a Bible. They gave them some other horse shit. And they let these people come in and take the land. Right? I mean, so, I mean, let's kind of start there. It's always in the majority. They probably bought off the leaders and started getting the land that way, because this shit should have never happened. Right? I remember when the Europeans tried to go and do the same shit to the Japanese, man, those people weren't having it. They weren't having it. They had some, they tried to bring religion in, they tried to bring a few other things. They made a little bit of inroads, and then the Japanese just rejected that shit outright. That's why they were able to maintain their sovereignty as Japanese people. So anyway, I'm just telling you, listen, let her go, because we always want to go back. The apartheid was a horrible thing. And one thing that nobody really talks about is that Black Americans, when we used to be a community, I think the reason why South Africa got freed, Mandela got free, was 100% because Black Americans said, you know what, this far and no further. Our country can't be doing business like America was with South Africa. Those were both Democrats and Republicans, but continuing to do, and our corporations doing business with South Africa, and black people at one point actually said, you know, enough is enough. Enough is enough.
Areas where they had no rights. And so 30 plus years ago, they went through a revolution.
It was Truth and Reconciliation panel.
Apartheid system ended, and they reformed their constitution under the great leader of Nelson Mandela, and that allowed for a racial reconciliation, one that this country has yet to do, but South Africa did it, and they reformed their constitution. And part of that is that the people who are native to that land deserve their rightful land back. That is not what the Afrikaners actually want to have happen, which are the white Africans. And so who are not originally from Africa, who colonized South Africa also. And so that is what they are saying is discrimination. Now, if the...
Well, okay, so let me, it's, you know, the way they have this camera set up, she actually probably is staring straight at Scott, waiting for his reply, you know, Scott Jennings. But I mean, she said a couple of things, you know, with the land. Okay, if there's paperwork, and well, you know, they did confiscate the land. So how do you take that land back, or how much land do you take back based on legal means? And that's what I'm saying. Because if that was the case, it should have happened more by now, right? And if you had to resort to violence, that means people are not really necessarily going by the Constitution on either side.
Constitution in South Africa is discriminatory. They have their checks and balances in that land, just like we do. And that is for them to, so if the Afrikaners don't actually like the land, they can leave that country.
They're leaving to come here.
No, they can
these refugees are coming here.
They can actually leave and go to where their native land is, which is probably Germany.
Are you against them coming here?
Holland, probably.
Holland.
Are you against them coming here?
I'm against the hypocrisy of this administration.
No, that's not the question. The question is, are you against them coming here?
If there was actually a genocide happening, like there is in other places in Sudan, in the Congo, I'm not opposed for Congolese and for the Sudanese to come to Africa, just like I'm not opposed to Venezuelans and South Americans coming to America if they are fleeing and looking for asylum.
Okay.
What I am
just
against,
these 50
again,
people you're
what
against.
I am against, it's not about being against them. What I am against is that they are being given special treatment when there is not a genocide happening in South Africa, and they just don't like the law of the land.
Well,
so you know what they tell people?
But there's huge.
See, that last point was the only point after all that rambling. That's the only point that I agree with. I mean, you know, this justification that Trump is throwing out there, it's a lie. You know, I mean, I would have much preferred him to say, listen, man, these are white people just like me. They are getting some, you know, there are some deaths and stuff there. And they asked me for a favor, you know, and shit, you know, I'm giving it to them. Right, we accept millions of non-white immigrants in all kinds of fashions, right? Illegal, legal, millions. So for 59 people who want to come over here because they think they're in danger or jeopardy in South Africa, in the backdrop of the brothers saying there must be blood in a revolution, right? You know, I mean, but you know, let's not call this shit a genocide, because it's not. It's not.
There's a very high crime rate in South Africa. They have a crime problem. I suspect that part of what's going on here is that there is a very high profile white South African named Elon Musk, who is very close to President Trump and is probably making this a very high profile issue and talking to Trump about it. You know, Elon Musk has tweeted about it. He's, I think, called the president of South Africa about it. He's been talking about this for a long time. Look, here's the problem. There's Afghanis who helped us.
These hypocrites on the left are freaking out right now about 54 people who are coming from South Africa. And they're freaking out also because Trump had said that they would assimilate very well. They're Christian. And look at the video you're watching here. You're not seeing only military-aged men. You're seeing mothers. You're seeing babies. You're seeing people that are happy to be coming to America. You're seeing English-speaking people, people that could assimilate, people that are, again, Christian. I don't mean white. I mean Christian. You're coming to a nation that shares their morals.
See, now you're being disingenuous too, man. I can't say. I would just say, if you do mean them being white as well, you wouldn't be leading with them just being Christian. You know, if they were Haitians, they're Catholics. You wouldn't be saying the same thing. So just stop the bullshit, man. It's because they're white and Christian, for whatever that's worth. You know, I mean, listen, I mean, when you have these conversations, you can't be disingenuous about it. It's only 59 of these people. We shouldn't really be tripping over it. But these narratives that's coming out by all sides, it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy.
We share their ethics. Yes, it will be easier. Look at how happy they are. Waving.
No, the one thing he is correct about is assimilation. And that's one of the biggest issues with the immigration that we have, and nobody really talks about it as much, is because the pipeline to legal immigration is narrow by design. It's narrow by design, right? There's like millions, like 30 million people a year, you know, try to apply for a green card, but they're only going to give out maybe 1 million, right? And the point really is that long string of people coming in on a green card, establishing residence, learning the language, doing all this, it takes years. And that years is the period that they get assimilated to American culture. And then the Americans at large can assimilate those people on a small scale, right? So those people might still have their culture and some of their own, you know, their religion and all that, but they take the time to see themselves as Americans, right? So it might be easier for white people who are blended in white areas and are Christian to assimilate, right? Of course, as opposed to people who don't speak the language or who might have to be, you know, and who might be darker skinned, might be black, you know, or whatever. So they're not really black, but some people and the ones are in between, right? The truth of the matter is, so that's where we're coming from. Assimilation is a big, huge deal in immigration, and we don't talk about that a lot. But see, just like some people, they always get dual-minded, and we don't talk about that enough, right? These people happen to be holding American flags. I've seen they've had rallies on immigration with people holding Venezuelan flags walking down the street in America. They don't even have American flags. They're talking about they want to be here, but they don't even carry American flags. They're carrying the flags of their own country. You know, that's really bad optics. You know, so here you go.
The flag, and you're telling me, look at this. You're telling me that there is no difference between legal people who are seeking refugee status and asylum that are going to contribute to the economy versus people that are coming into the country illegally. You cannot say anything to me once you've let in 10 million people, over 10 million people illegally into the country. You don't get to complain about 54 people, no matter what race or gender or color they are, if they're legal. Take a look at this clip.
We have a refugee program.
I am sure there's been violence against one side or the other.
There has been violence. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I want to make a point. Violence does not equal genocide. So we need to be really clear about that. Because
if you're the dead guy, you may not say that.
No, I would say that, actually. Because if you look at what genocide is, it is very specific that you're trying to get rid of a people, a whole group of people. There is violence in South Africa. They have had a very big uptick in violence. But Black people have seen the brunt of that violence.
Okay.
Not just
Let me ask this question of the panel. If you get a passport and you're South African, and you have that passport and you're of Dutch descent, and someone else has the same passport, is this a tainted passport? Is it not equal? Are you not a citizen? Do you not have the same rights?
You know what?
Or they're special?
No. You're right. It's the same passport. That means you have to follow the laws. Each person has to follow the laws. And right now, what the Dutch is saying, they don't want to follow the laws of the land. So they're saying their passport, like it was during apartheid, when Africans didn't even have a passport because they had a passport.
I'm hearing them saying my passport's not the same, and I fear for my life, and I'm leaving the country. That's what I'm hearing.
I also thought Trump said we're going to enforce immigration laws. And this is not enforcing immigration laws. It's breaking a law that clearly says if there's a genocide, you get to come as a refugee.
Well, he's put a refugee ban on practically everybody else. Most of that everybody else that I can think of are either black people or brown people. We are seeing right now Cuban mothers torn away as they are breastfeeding one-year-old U.S. citizen child and sent back to Cuba, where there is a cruel dictatorship. We are seeing Nicaraguans and Venezuelans and Haitians, where the country is held in a handbasket, and Cubans who had parole status to come into this country.
Anna, fair enough.
Told they have to leave.
Let's celebrate one thing.
But listen, the one thing she said, this whole bullshit about ripping mothers away from breastfeeding. Listen, they go back to Cuba, they're going to want to take their kids with them. Even if they're American citizens, the kid always could come back to the United States as a citizen. They don't lose their citizenship. So the kids don't get deported. That was one big lie. But the other thing she said, and I'm losing my train of thought. The other thing she said, though, and I'm going to have to replay it, is that she kind of skips over the fact that millions of people have already, black and brown or whatever you want to call them, has been here. Like here's what I was going to go with. The only people I can sit back and really, really say that should get the same kind of treatment as the South, and even more so than the South African, is Haitians. There is no way we should be deporting anybody from Haiti back to that place. There's just no way. There's no real justification. If anybody deserves asylum, just one peek at Mr. Barbecue over there burning people to alive. You can't really send those people back to that place. That's a certain death sentence. That's for sure, for a lot of them. Anyway, so I mean, it's a touchy situation. And Trump is not going to be clean on this one. The fact is, though, we really this exception he's making for the South Africans, and that's what it really is. He should just come out and be clean about it. I'm making an exception for my white people in South Africa. That's what I'm doing. And because I have this close friendship with Elon Musk, I'm doing him a solid. He did me one with Doge. I'm doing him one back. You know what? I got to be honest about it. He'll take a hit for it, but this whole bullshit about genocide and all that kind of stuff is a bit over a pale, because there's certainly people in worse shape that they're not letting in or not giving fast track than a few Afrikaners in South Africa.
Thing together, America is still the country where the persecuted want to come. Period.
Oh, yes, that's true.
And that's the
but
American
the problem
dream.
is that the white persecuted are being allowed in.
It's
and the
still
black and the brown
American
are
dream.
being torn.
Well, for the record, we did allow 20 million people to come here legally, and this is 50 people. So, I mean,
I get it. Right? The numbers the math doesn't math, but it doesn't mean the facts of the situation are any different. I also just want to take great issue with the thinking that they are being persecuted, that they are suffering a genocide.
Why don't they leave their homes?
Because
if everything is fine, why are they fleeing?
Because guess what? They want to come to America, like a lot of people in the world.
Oh, the American dream is working? Oh, no, that's horrible.
But we have a system to prioritize people who really need to come here.
Well, that's a debate we can have, and we are.
No,
that's
not
not
a
a
debate.
dream. It's still the magnet.
It is the process that has been set.
Well, the previous administration had priorities about who to let in, including, all kinds of folks who I would argue shouldn't be here. This administration, I guess, is going to set priorities about who not to let in.
But let's just be honest about what those priorities are, right? And by the way, I'm a Democrat here. I did not defend the Biden administration on immigration.
But you voted for him.
So
that doesn't mean that I defended him on immigration.
You voted for a continuation of it in 2024, did you not?
I did not vote for his policies on immigration.
Scott Jennings is the man. I had this same discussion with a dude about. I said, listen, you might not, if the Democrats or even the Republicans, if they got 10 planks or 10 issues or 10 initiatives or 5, let's just say 5, you like one of them or 2 of them, and that's why you voted for them. But when you put that Democrat in office, his objective is to get all 5 passed through. So whether you want to admit it or not, you are accepting the other 3 initiatives, whether you like them or not, because you're putting a Democrat in office. That's just the way it is. You can't run away from it. And that's what Scott's is telling them. You might not have liked the immigration, but it wasn't big enough for you to not vote for an idiot, right? A half brain dead dude, right? So you can't get away with it. Well, it was not my position. I'm a Democrat. Bullshit. You voted for it.
You voted to extend the immigration policies of the last administration.
No, I did not vote for that.
The point is, you're in a party that opened the borders, and I'm in a party that closed the borders, and I think the American people prefer our way.
Well, he's closed the borders to certain people.
That's
and
right.
I think that's the debate.
The people who are coming here illegally.
The debate, though, is he's closed the borders to people who are seeking.
By the way, I don't even disagree with you about the
white
translators. I think the people who helped the American military deserve a chance to be here, as long as they're vetted and as long as we know who they are. I'm in agreement with you. If you help the United States, if you help the U.S. military, if we help brave soldiers like you were, I'm in agreement with you about that. But I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. I think we can look at these situations.
So then why aren't they letting them in?
Apples to apples,
Would you agree?
assuming you think the genocide in South Africa, let's just for a moment assume that that's true. What is apples to apples is that there are 12,000.
So what's the difference between the refugees that they're talking about here and those refugees?
I could guess. I mean, I think everyone.
They're white.
They're white. Thank you. They are white. And I think, look, if that is how you feel, fine, then hold the line. But there are people all over the world, even people in this country right now, who are seeking, who have sought asylum, who are going through the process of asylum seeking, and have been detained by ICE and are being deported. There's also a genocide happening in the Congo right now that I don't see any Congolese being getting relief to come to this country. So there are.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Listen, you know the one thing about the Congo and the fighting between the DRC and the rebels and the issues with Rwanda next door is that they sent Marco Rubio over there to try to broker some peace because they want those minerals over there. There's not enough. The mainstream media hasn't talked about that at all. You know, so yeah, there is a genocide over there. But I think if we do a cursory review of what's going on, I think it's being grind down, you know, to where they might even have a peace. You know, and America is in the middle of that. I mean, I saw Marco Rubio over there sitting between a DRC and a Rwandan person. And then I guess the president of DRC wanted to talk to Trump to sign a minerals deal to try to get some kind of protection against rebels and shit like that. So I think we're going to see some news from that area of the world. But the point still remains. The dishonesty or the bullshit about what Trump is doing in terms of the refugees from South Africa, saying all this other shit, is just come out and say it. That you want to save white people from whatever persecution might await them over there in South Africa, as opposed to anywhere else in the world. And we are talking about a lot of different numbers. We're talking about 59 people, 59 families, as opposed to millions, right? How do you pick and choose which people from the Congo to save, right? And that's if they're really seeking this kind of a thing. And then, of course, there's the assimilation piece, you know. And white people in general have to be honest. They already feel that they're losing their majority anyhow because the browning of America. And not because it's just black people. I'm talking about just a lot of interracial marriages between whites and people, not even black people, but all kinds of folks, right? So there's a melting pot actually happening here. So the white majority is still really big. It's still huge, but it's getting smaller all the time. So they don't want to be to accelerate that one way or the other, right? Because proximity means mixed marriages. It just does.
That helped us in Afghanistan that we have left behind. Even the last administration didn't do right by them. This administration can do right by them, but they are not, because it doesn't fit the narrative of the type of immigrants that we want in our country.
And even saying, there is also a genocide happening in Congo. we got to be careful about
acknowledging that
there's
not
a genocide in South
That's
Africa.
right. There is no genocide.
No, of course, we're in agreement there. I mean, certainly there are white people in South Africa who have been victims of crimes. That happens all over the world.
And listen, true enough about the Haitians and the Cubans. Absolutely. I mean, listen, we can't run away from it. The racial disparity is always a factor. And that's why I thought Trump was kind of disingenuous with what he said. I mean, I preferred him just to come out and say, listen, for however you want to couch it, because being disingenuous is something that got him from the Democrats. Being disingenuous is what got him in office for, being able to speak truth, even though it might hurt. And listen, these are his boys. This is Elon Musk's people, and he's doing Elon a solid by hooking up these white folks. I mean, let's just be honest about it.
Certainly does not entitle someone to the level of persecution to be entitled to asylum in the United States. When we, as a nation, are turning away people, forget the woke stuff. I mean, literally people who assisted the United States military in Afghanistan are not being admitted to this country now in favor of white South Africans under some genocide narrative that is just nonsense.
So the Trump administration, they're saying that essentially these white South Africans assimilate better, and they're also not as much of a security risk. That's really causing a lot of people to be appalled, frankly. And I also should tell people that this violence that they're talking about that are dealing with these Afrikaners, I've been hearing from people that say there is violence in South Africa, but it's affecting everybody of every single race, Katie.
They complain about other countries. We've had Somalian refugees, South American refugees. Which country in the world, from Latin America, from Africa, from Europe, from the Middle East, what country in the world do you think takes the most immigrants every year? It's us. It's us. From all the countries. We have been taking immigrants and migrants and asylum seekers forever. Educate yourself about the immigration laws in the country. This is legal. The stupidity that these people are showing. Again, look, these are families, mothers, fathers with babies. Not only military-age men, you don't have to vet them like they're going to be part of Hamas or part of ISIS. You cannot tell me that you don't feel more comfortable taking in Christian families who share your morals or share your ethics versus taking in a bunch of refugees from a country like Syria or Palestine, where a lot of them don't have IDs, and you don't know who these people are. We know every one of these people, and listen, it's 54 of them. You don't get to talk shit about 54 people when you let in illegally over 12 million. You have to shut your freaking mouth. Before I say something here, I want to tell you that what you're seeing on the screen right now, every white cross, this is from South Africa. This is a white cross for every white farmer that was killed in South Africa, murdered by black South Africans. And in the next clip you're going to watch while I'm talking is the chanting, a stadium full of people saying,
listen, I saw those crosses before, and then somehow they got to be verified. You could show this long road of crosses and say that that's what they stand for. I got to have some corroborating information saying that that's just based on how many people were killed, and what year we're talking about. Is that a lifetime? Is that since apartheid was at its height? Or whatever, is that something recent? I mean, you got to put that whole picture into some kind of perspective. Did that happen in the last 5 years? That would be different than if that was something that they were tracking since the fact that they had the black people in this country under their thumb way back when. I mean, the picture says 1,000 words. Is it in any context? Is it good to see that? No, but people worship different things and try to get when I say worship, people try to use visuals to their own benefit, and I'm not so sure. But listen, shit like this don't help the cause if the rhetoric is like we're gonna kill a whole bunch of people. Let's see what this says.
Kill the white farmer. South Africa is not a safe place for most people, but especially right now for white people because of some of the laws that they've implemented in the country.
Correspondent Alex Marquardt is here with us. Alex, what are you learning about the Trump administration's relocation efforts for these Afrikaners?
Well, this is such an extraordinary move because the Trump administration has gone to such lengths to stop migrants and refugees from coming into this country. This move is racially tinged, to say the least. The vast majority of migrants and refugees trying to come to the U.S. are not white, and this group of 49, we understand, is entirely white. As you mentioned, they're known as Afrikaners. They're descendants of the Dutch who colonized South Africa. According to the Associated Press, there are 49 of them. This is the first group, so 49 today, flying over in a charter plane due to land today at Washington's Dulles Airport. This is the latest salvo in a pretty acrimonious back and forth between the governments of the United States and of South Africa. Back in February, President Trump issued an executive order accusing the South African government of racial discrimination, of taking land belonging to white citizens without compensation. This is something that the South African government vigorously denies. They call this resettlement scheme that was announced by the president in February as politically motivated. And they have argued that despite being a minority in South Africa, they are among the most economically privileged group in the country. Back in March, the South African ambassador was kicked out of the U.S. He was declared persona non grata, and he had accused Trump of mobilizing a supremacism, and he went on to say that the administration is trying to project white victimhood as a dog whistle. So this is highly controversial, not just because many South Africans are arguing that this is not a group in need, but there's so many people who work with refugee groups here who argue that there are people who need to come here in a far more desperate way.
Well, Alex Markworth, thanks very much. Very sensitive issue indeed. And we'll be right back with more news.
Well, it's not only sensitive, it's probably true, but you just can't. Let's put it this way. I think there would be more weight to this argument if Biden wouldn't have let 20 million people in. He was flying people in from these countries, and the Republicans was too stupid to stop it by using lawfare like the Democrats are using right now, and enjoining him from doing that. I mean, boatloads of people over planes, flying them here, thousands, millions, right? He was doing that under the cover of darkness. So if he didn't really waste to me, he burned all the credits. In the last 4 years, that administration flooded our country with so many people from so many different places that this stands out when you just focus on 59 whites, right? And maybe there's more of course, there might be more to come, but a lot of those people ain't willing to leave South Africa, by the way, right? They're not leaving their farmlands. They're not. Some of the people in the outskirts, yeah, but some people are going to hunker down over there. They ain't going to just leave. So the real point is that, Trump is a white man. Trump is everything pro-white, and he's always been that way, even though I don't think that's in and itself is racist, right? I mean, I don't see, most of us are for who we are in terms of our color. Now, all the way up until he ran for president, Trump has had all kinds of people around him, Black, Hispanic, all kinds of stuff. And you can say a lot of his employees in his hotels, they're not all just white people. I mean, real racism stinks a little bit different. Is he going to give a handout to some whites like he is over there? I think that's just Trump being who he is, a white man with some power. I'm not going to trip over that, because that doesn't say that nobody of color is not getting in, right? That's not really true. It's just not treating them special. So I do think that they should make a special compensation for as many Haitians as they possibly can.
Okay, before I let you go, I want to share one good clip that I have here from Dave Rubin's channel. He did an interview with a man from South Africa talking about all the anti-white laws that they have right now in South Africa. Let's have a listen.
140 race-based laws in South Africa, all anti-white. And 8 days ago, Cyril Ramaphosa, our president, signed into law, and just hear these three words: expropriation without compensation. And this is just the straw that broke the camel's back. There's been endless laws, anti-white, boiling us like a frog in a bowl. And all I can say is thank you, America, and thank you, Donald Trump, for taking notice, because we are on the edge of the socialist abyss.
So how do you guys get out of this? Obviously, there's a complex racial history there. How do you reverse some of this?
It's not complex, brother. It's not a complex racial history. This is the slingshot effect. I mean, you can't, and this is recent history. One of the things about slavery and where we are now in America is so many generations have passed that the excuse for blacks not getting to where they need to go, slavery is such, and shit don't work. It don't work no more. But in South Africa, man, we're talking about maybe a generation and a half of one of the most repressive white supremacist operations that ever existed. You know, so this is the slingshot effect. Is it great? No, it's not. You know, but that's what it is. I mean, you know, so there wasn't no fucking ambiguity back when they had the color lines and all that shit, man. Come on. You know, so this is an extension of that, you know, and they've got the wrong leaders in. You know, the president is not the wrong. I don't know how he's going to justify it, but there you go.
I mean, that's an awful lot of laws, and
I don't think we can internally. We have to wait till the 2029 national election, and I don't think our economy will survive. It requires some external dynamic to change it. And I think Donald Trump in America taking notice and coming in swinging with a baseball bat may be that dynamic we need.
So when you saw over the last couple of years in America, wokeness infecting our system.
Listen, man, listen. Donald Trump won't dare come into South Africa killing black people. He's crazy, but he's not that crazy. Do you hear me? He's going to send black soldiers over there to kill black people for white Afrikaners. It's not happening. It's not happening. You know, the Republicans won't let him do it, because if he does that, then all the shit that he put here working to change this from the woke bullshit culture that it was under the Democrats will be swept away. He's not that stupid. Just like the push by that asshole from who Candace Owens used to work for, is pushing to get Chauvin out of release from prison. You know, he's not stupid. He's not doing that. It's unnecessary. With all the momentum he's got going now, I think as bad as it's going to get is for him to accept just white refugees on this expedited program, which is really not a big deal. Not really.
And suddenly we were focused on race. And we were putting it into it was this very people who said we were systemically racist that were putting racism into the system in a systemic way. Must have given you a little concern about the direction we're going, as much as that's now been rolled back.
Well, we've been infected in South Africa with the evil woke mind virus way more than in America. We've got it ×2, and there's no momentum in South Africa to reverse it. In fact, it's quite the opposite.
I'm happy that Trump took these people in. I think it was the right move. I hope you guys think so also. They seem like good Christian families. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button for your boy.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna put this this, if anybody wants to see this, do without my stupid commentary, I'm gonna put this link in the description so y'all can go ahead and go to this guy's feed and see it all the way through. Anyway, man, I don't have a problem with these people coming over here. I just have a problem with the bullshit talking about there's a genocide going on. It's just a lie. In the face of real genocide that's happening in Gaza, that's happening in the Congo, that's happening around the world, this ain't no genocide. Is it fair? No, but I can understand the slingshot effect, because we're only like a generation and a half away from what the South Afrikaners had done to just fucking generations of blacks. You know, I mean, you can't escape that. Not that fast. More years have to pass. So we'll see. But I don't, you know, the guy alluded to Trump coming over to South Africa and swinging. His back should be only one way, taking the refugees out. But if he goes over there trying to kill blacks, it's going to be really crazy. Anyway, if that's what that guy was intimating. Anyway, thanks for anybody who stopped by, man. You could put an afterplay, put your comments in there. I'm like in the middle of this. I'm not in the middle. I don't have any problem with the refugees coming over here. Pretty much. I don't have a problem with Trump being favorable to whites. He's a white man with power. That shit makes sense to me. You know, I mean, let's just keep it a buck. You know, he ain't like Kamala Harris saying there's nothing she would do for black people. Well, because she's not really black, but only black politicians say stupid shit like that. If you get to the top and you're black, you should have some trying to go into the hood and tell the right kind of story to help blacks. One is to be introspective and stop fucking killing each other and all that stuff that we do, self-harm. But I would change some things that would be specifically for blacks, so we could look at ourselves as more like Americans than just the color of our skin. That's more important to me, right? Because we've worked and earned our place in this country to be just as American as anybody else. And I think we should take more advantage of that. I don't dislike Trump for what he's doing with this thing, but stop calling it a genocide, my man. It's not true. Just say I was doing my boy Elon Musk a solid, which he pretty much owes him. Anyway, our pain, marriage, politics, and sports. If you get in here, give me a like or a dislike, whatever it is. Put some comments in the comment block. You know, I like these political reactions because I'm just a regular citizen, man. I'm not in no political thing, but I have opinions. And so do you. I'd like to hear them. Our pain, marriage, politics, and sports. Over and out.